Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. There was an area I liked to go hiking in when I was younger. I had been there many times before, and I believed it was actually a fairly popular place for hiking. That being the case, it was also a very large area, and it wasn't often that you'd run into other hikers. You could spend a lot of time out there just enjoying nature. The last time I went there, I had a pretty scary experience. It happened after I had been out hiking for a while and came across this rope bridge. The bridge was high up over a chasm, but it was something I had crossed many times before. I wasn't worried about it. Plus, I didn't really have a fear of heights either. Nothing scary at all. It was a pretty windy day, though, and that gave me a bit of fear about crossing the bridge. The wind gusts were really strong, and it was possible that a particularly strong one could throw me off balance and cause me to fall over the side. The bridge was swinging a little bit in the wind, but I figured I could manage it. I began to cross. I crossed very carefully, walking fairly slowly. Suddenly, a person appeared on the other side of the bridge. He stopped when he saw me, but only for a moment. It might have just been surprise from running into another person out there. The bridge was wide enough that we could pass each other and still get to the other side. As this person was walking toward me, I didn't really think much about him. The bridge was swaying back and forth in the wind, and I was trying my best to hold it steady. At one point when I looked over at him, it seemed like he had stopped for some reason. He was holding on to the rope handles on both sides, and suddenly it looked like he began swaying a bit, as if he were trying to make the bridge sway even more. I couldn't imagine why he would do such a thing, unless he was trying to scare me or make the bridge rock so much that I'd lose my balance and fall over. I thought maybe I should just turn around and go back to the side I had started on if this man meant to cause me harm. For some reason, the last thing I wanted to do was pass him on the bridge. He could easily toss me over the side himself. I was holding on to the ropes with both hands when a big, sudden gust of wind hit. It must have been very strong, because the bridge began to sway even more fiercely. The man lost his balance before my eyes. I watched as he fell over the side of the bridge and down into the chasm below. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. I didn't know what to do. I was much closer to the side of the bridge I had entered on, so I turned to go back in that direction. All of a sudden, there were more strong gusts of wind shaking the bridge back and forth even more fiercely than the one that sent him over the side. I had to grip the ropes very tightly. I was terrified of being blown off like he was. At one point, the shaking was so strong I had to get down and crawl so I wouldn't be blown over so easily. It was terrifying every single moment until I made it back to solid ground. When I did, I felt incredibly grateful to have my feet on the ground again. I still couldn't believe what I had seen. I knew I had to go and try to get help for the man. I had no idea if he was really trying to rock the bridge or if he had simply been trying to hold on and failed, but either way, I couldn't just leave him. When I eventually got back to the rangers in the area, they went out looking for him. To my knowledge, they never found him. I told them exactly where it happened, but they found no evidence of the fall or that anyone had even been there. I don't know if he was ever found or located. It was just a really strange experience altogether. I haven't gone back hiking in that area again, simply because of what happened. I don't know exactly what I saw or experienced, but I know I don't want to go through it again. My sister had this dog, a young Jack Russell, and since she was over at a friend's house, I figured I'd take him out for a walk. It was around 8 p.m. in early May, so it was still light out, but it would be dark soon. I walked around the corner toward the local park. As the dog tugged at his leash, I made my way up the path and saw something that looked a bit strange. I thought it was a bird or something. It looked a bit like a partridge, but it had reddish-brown coloring and a green neck. I don't know why, but something about it made me curious. I was just a young kid, so I decided to run after it. At first, it didn't move, just stood there, but when I got closer, it darted back into the bushes. I hesitated for a moment, but I was determined to see what it was. I pushed through the bushes, trying to follow this bird, but the thorns pricked my skin and clothes. The dog, still just a puppy, was pulling at me. I had to hold him back because I was afraid he might get stuck or hurt in the thorns. After a while, I gave up on the mysterious bird and started heading toward a nearby field. That's when I began to hear strange noises coming from the bushes, not the usual chirping or bird sounds, but something else. It was like a bird, but not quite. It was a high-pitched, almost whistling sound. I thought someone was messing around and assumed it was some sort of prank. I'd heard people using foam whistle toys to mimic bird calls, so I figured that's what it must be. Soon enough, the noises changed, no longer bird sounds. They turned into monkey noises, and the way they shifted made it unmistakably clear that a human voice was making them. I didn't live in an area where wild monkeys were a thing. I stopped walking and looked all around. All I could see were bushes. I started moving toward the park. The dog was tugging harder now, as if he sensed something was wrong. That's when I noticed someone standing farther away in the bushes, partially hidden. They were wearing a blue coat, and I could barely make out their face. There was something about the way they were just standing there, watching me, that made me freeze. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but I knew I didn't want to find out. I even tried convincing myself I had just imagined it. I tried to calm down and keep walking. The dog was acting very strange now, tugging harder and harder, whining and barking. It was a frantic, desperate bark. I grabbed his collar to try and calm him down. He was biting at it like he was trying to get away from me. That wasn't like him at all. When I let go of the leash for a second, he lunged at me, trying to bite my hand, not a playful nip either. It scared me. I didn't know what was going on, but something felt wrong. I started walking quickly toward the path that led out of the park, the dog pulling me faster. Just as I was heading for the exit, I looked over my shoulder and saw the person in the blue coat behind me. I began running. That's when I saw another person coming toward me from the other side. He was wearing a bright red coat, and he was moving way too fast for someone just out for a casual walk. I ran as fast as I could, having to find an exit through the wooded area of the park since these people were blocking my path. I didn't stop until I was safely at my back door. When I got inside, I locked it and ran up to my bedroom. I was shaking by then, but I felt a little safer now that I was in the house. I needed to make sure those people hadn't followed me, so I peeked out of my window just to see if anyone was out there. When I looked out, I saw the people in the red and blue coats walking down the street together. They were scanning each and every yard, even staring into windows for long periods of time. I think they were trying to see where I lived. Thankfully, I had slipped in through the back door, so they had no idea which house was mine. I shut the curtains tight and didn't dare look outside again. I had never felt that scared. I never went back to that park alone after dark. Back in the 90s, when I was in high school, I was really good with my hands and worked several jobs: construction, demolition, flooring, and auto mechanics. One of those jobs was for a guy who did remodeling projects at restaurants, bars, retail shops, typical commercial places. I went to school during the day and worked after school or on weekends. It wasn't uncommon for this guy to leave me alone at a job site with a list of tasks, mostly demolition work. One Saturday morning, he picked me up, since I didn't have a car or license, and drove me out to a site, then dropped me off alone. I rarely worked with the other crews, since they were the skilled laborers. My job was usually to tear the place apart before they came in to do the real work. The mistake I made that day was not paying attention to where we were going. I was too busy talking with him, probably about cars or something. The drive took a long time, and when we arrived, I realized we were deep in the Mojave Desert. I knew we'd left the highway and followed two-lane roads for a while, but I had no idea where we actually were. I had a big jug of water with me, since the water to the house would be shut off during the work. Once we pulled up, I grabbed my tools from the truck, and he drove off to another job site. He told me he'd be back around 5 or 6 p.m. That was his way of saying, "I'm only paying you until then, so finish by that time." I thought it was fair, we had an understanding. Now I was alone. The house was mostly empty. My tasks were to remove the remaining furniture, appliances, flooring, gut the kitchen and bathroom, and strip the wood paneling. I was used to working alone, even at night, but this time it was daytime. Still, the place gave me the creeps. It was dark, musty, and unusually cool inside, the kind of cool that makes your skin crawl. I started working, tearing out junk, pulling up flooring. Everything was going smoothly. I smashed the kitchen apart with a demo hammer in less than an hour. I used the jug of water to rinse my hands and face throughout the day. By late afternoon, I had one drink left and had already eaten all the food I brought. No big deal, I'd be getting picked up soon. I finished everything early and even swept the place for the next crew. Around sunset, it started cooling rapidly, like the desert does. I had a flannel shirt on, but it wasn't enough. As it got darker, I realized my ride was running late. This was before cell phones were common. There was no electricity, no water, and no phone in the house. I climbed onto the roof to see if I could spot anything nearby. I saw a few small homes down a narrow road, but they were all dark. I thought about walking over and asking to use a phone, but I didn't want to risk missing my ride, and honestly, it didn't look like anyone was home anyway. Darkness came fast. My options were, hike through the desert at night with barely any water, or stay put and wait for morning. I chose to wait. That's when it hit me, no one else knew where I was except my boss. My family wouldn't miss me until Sunday night. They knew I worked a lot and wouldn't think twice about me being gone. By nightfall, I had no flashlight, no way to make a fire, and my radio, my only light and sound, started dying around 8 p.m. I dragged an old wooden chair into the living room and sat there, doing nothing but waiting. The wind picked up. I heard odd noises, probably animals in the distance. I shivered from the cold, my mind starting to play tricks on me. Shadows seemed to move outside. I even thought I heard whispers. I yelled, "Hello," into the house. Immediately, I heard something fall over on the other side of the house. That was it, I needed out. I ran outside, into the moonlight where I could at least see. I heard more movement, but couldn't make out what it was. I grabbed a heavy pry bar from my pile of tools near the edge of the house. I was cold and scared, but ready to defend myself. I tried climbing up on the gate just to get a better view. I thought about the stories I'd heard, people dumping bodies in the Mojave, cults, strange disappearances. Every noise made my heart race. I sat on the front porch for warmth, staring into the house through the living room window, convinced I'd see someone. By 11 p.m., I checked my watch, dreading the thought of another 6 hours before daylight. Near midnight, I was wide awake, eyes locked on the dirt road. I still kept hearing noises, but kept telling myself it was just animals. Then I saw it, a shadow of a person moving down the hall from the kitchen. I jumped to my feet, backing away from the house. I tripped on some debris and fell to the ground. I scrambled to get up, but fell again. Then, headlights. A truck pulled up. My boss got out with a flashlight and found me lying there. He asked, confused, "What are you doing down there?" I didn't even care anymore, I was just glad to see him. I asked what happened, and he apologized. He said he thought the other crew was coming to get me, and they thought he was. No one ever came. It wasn't until late that night when he checked in with the other crew leader that they realized I was still out there. He said he'd pay me for the entire time I was stuck and started driving me home. I asked him about the house, told him how creepy it felt. He said he didn't know anything about it, just what we were hired to do. I don't know if I was hallucinating or just panicking, but that time I spent out there, alone, in the middle of the desert at night, was the scariest night of my life. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.